And that was the major issue that we had with these bikes, is that they actually never made bikes this size because kids grow up so fast. Imagine buying your kid a $2,000 pair of jeans every Christmas. That would be the equivalent of buying one of these. These high-wheel bicycles were very expensive, between about $120 and $150 back in 1870. So you're spending between $8,500 and $10,000 on one of these things. So even purchasing a pint-sized version would have been pretty darn expensive. So these usually didn't happen.
Well, I don't know if my mom has to buy me a couple of bucks. She usually gets some for this feels going to fall. I'm not tall enough.
It's good to have hand-me-downs.
Yeah. Try them. Quick turns, guys. Quick turns.
You can sit in the front seat. I mean, sit in the back seat right now because it was damaged a couple days ago. We have to fix it. Well, these bikes were
Whoa, careful.
Got it? There you go. Okay. Sure, you're set to go. Look at this.
Sarah's stuck.
Did you steer it? Is that power steering go out again?
The power steering is out.
So slow.
Here, as they began to create Old World. It is the first building that was brought out here, and it is the oldest building that's here. Of all the buildings you'll visit today, this one is the oldest. Built in 1839. It has been fixed up. Everything in here has been donated by many different Catholic churches in Wisconsin. The only thing we have original to 1839 is the actual building that you're in. All of this stuff came from other churches and dates about the late 1800s. The confessional is a reproduction of one that would have been used in the late 1800s. And the baptismal font is also. The Stations of the Cross came from a church up north, but I did read that they were actually made in Germany. To the dating of the late 1800s. We have to give a lot of credit to this early Catholics who in the late, probably 4 years, probably 1840, something like later than that, when we get to the historical side, but in the way they tear it down. And so, and also the church was in the makings, and they gave it to the Historical Society to be preserved even more, and now it's here forever.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I'll wait until we...
1839, electricity wasn't invented yet, but they had music by means of this little organ here. That's the accordion. It's well over 100 years old, but it does play. Would you like to hear it? Do you feel like singing? Sure. Good. I have books, and I usually play Amazing Grace, which is found on page 5, or it might be on page 6 if you got a different kind of book. So. And it's a long song. How many would you like to sing? How many verses? 2? 1? How many?
3.
3. All right. I'll start softly. Get the pedal right here. And when I get a little bit louder, that's when we start.
that have just come in. We are in the home of Mary Hafford, and let me just make a comment to this. With the strollers, I moved. Did you move because Mom or Dad got a different job? Yep. I went from La Crosse to Waupun, from Waupun to Milwaukee. Did you move maybe because you had brothers and sisters and had to have a bigger house? Yep. I got 4 of them. I'm the oldest of 5. Did you move maybe because Mom or Dad just wanted you in a better neighborhood, a better place to live? Yep. Well, that's what happened to the lady that owned this house. Her name is Mary Hafford. Now, she was born and raised in Ireland. Is that close to Wisconsin or far away? Far away, yeah. And Mary and her husband Matthew and their 3 children came to Wisconsin in 1866, a long, long time ago. Matthew got a job working with the railroad, and the town that they lived in was called Hubbleton, which is just west of Watertown, Wisconsin. Now, 2 years after coming to Wisconsin, there is an accident and Matthew passed away. Mary has 3 small children, and unlike you, she didn't learn her 3 R's. Can anybody tell me what the 3 R's are?
Want to try it? She's going to try it.
Okay.
What do you think it is? Oh, okay. All righty. Right. Okay. What? Go ahead, check. Yes. Oh, it's 3 R's. What starts with an R?
Reading.
Good.
Writing.
Yeah. Arithmetic. Even though it doesn't start with an R.
Arithmetic. Arithmetic. So, can Mary get a job working at the store across the street? No. Because what does she do with the children? So she looks around her house and she sees these fine young men working for the railroad. And boys, what happens to your clothes when you play outside?
They get dirty.
They get dirty. And whose job is it to wash clothes, girls or boys? Yeah, girls. Kind of sucks, doesn't it, girls? So she looks around her house and she sees, you can come in. You don't have to stand there. She sees her washing machine. Does this look like Mom's washing machine?
Yes.
What 3 things do we put in a washing machine? Soap, dirty clothes, and water, yeah. And we put all 3 of those things in this washing machine. Water, soap, and dirty clothes. But this washing machine is called a boiler. Now, if Mommy wants to boil water or cook soup, where does she have to put it?
In a pot.
And where does she put the pot?
On the stove.
On the stove. Well, this boiler gets put on the stove, and we get to cook the clothes like we cook soup. She did such a good job washing clothes for the men working for the railroad that pretty soon you ladies realize you have better things to do with your time and you bring your dirty clothes to her. 9 years after she started her business of doing laundry for other people, Mary Hafford was able to purchase not 1, but 2 pieces of land in the town of Hubbleton. By 1885, just 17 years after she started her business, her children have gone to school, they've grown up, moved out of the house, and she has this house built for her with the money she made washing clothes for other people. Do you think Mary Hafford did a good job washing clothes? I think she did a wonderful job. Now we've got something here. You're going to take that, you're going to smell it, you're going to pass it around. You're going to take that, smell it, pass it around. We can start back here. Pass it around. And what are we smelling? Soap. You're right. And what is the soap made out of? 3 things. It's not supposed to do this today. What is the weather not supposed to do? It's not supposed to rain, right? So we need rainwater. What's left over in my stove after I burn my wood? Ashes. Rainwater going through the wood ashes makes your lye water. The third ingredient is the best one of all. This one is so cool, you kids are going to love it. Who likes bacon?
I do.
I do. And what's left over in the pan after Mom or Dad cooks our bacon? Grease. Pig fat. Yeah. Our soap's made out of rainwater, ashes from the wood stove, and pig fat. And you know what's really, really cool about our soap? We not only use it to wash our clothes, but this is what you children use when you take your bath or your shower. Now if you pick it like this, you pick it up. Now what are we lifting? An iron. What's it made out of? What kind of metal?
We have to keep them from moving when we put the tire in, right? And the way we do it is I made this little model here so I could show you. See, if this is the two pieces of wood where they come together, we have a little wooden dowel. And that's what holds it together. Well, now, this is 1880. We can't run to Lowe's, Menards, Home Depot, any of those places because they haven't been invented yet. So we have our own little gizmo here we made that we can make the dowel. So you guys up for trying this? Yes, no, maybe, I don't care.
Megan, are you ready? You want to try that? Oh.
Sure she does. Speak up, kid, I don't bite. I've been known to nibble, but I don't bite.
What is this? Is that a horse thing? Okay.
You got siblings with you? How many of you? How many siblings?
4.
4 kids? All right. Well, I just want to make sure I get a piece of wood long enough that you all get. Siblings, that's brothers and sisters. Other kids in the family. Siblings. Say yes.
Yes.
Okay, good, I like you. Okay, here's what's going to happen. Now, let me hold on to it so it doesn't break. You have to hit this straight up and down. Take a couple hits, set the hammer down so that your sibling can pick it up. Don't hand it to her. Ready? Hit it straight up and down. Good. Excellent. Next. Stand on the box if you're short. Make sure you hit it straight up and down. Wonderful, wonderful. Hit it harder. Once more, really hard. Good. All right, how about you, sir? Yeah, you can do it.
There and do it.
Stand up here and whack this thing. Hit that thing straight up and down.
Woohoo!
Good. Who's last one? We need one more.
Rachel, you want to hit it? Sure.
Are you part of that family?
Yes, she is.
Oh, okay, you can do it. Once more, kid. Hey, do it again. Good. All right, girl. Are you the last one?
Yes.
Drive it home. Pretend those are your brothers that are picking on you. All the way through. Well, that was really good. He hit it so hard, it's on the floor here someplace. Where'd it go?
Or is that a different one?
I don't know. Was that on the floor?
Yeah.
That's the one. Here, take that home with you guys, so you guys have it as a...
Oh, thank you.
Did you see what a big square piece of wood, how it makes that nice little round dowel?
I see that.
You want to try it? Okay. You just look like a big kid, you know. You
I
might...
am a big kid.
I know you are. That's why I thought you might want to try
Okay,
it.
I'll try.
That's what I like. I'll get a nice short piece for you so you don't... Let me start it for you. Don't laugh, you're next.
That's my daughter.
I know.
How did you know that?
Because you're with them. Stop. Okay, let her finish it. You drive a... I don't want... You can come be a carpenter. All the way through, dear. Wonderful. There you go. There's your souvenir.
Cool. Thank you.
I like the big kids that do this.
Metal and put it over into that anvil, just one end of it. And then I have a tool over there that I can put on the end and I can twist it. So when I'm done, I will have a twist in the metal similar to what the twist in this handle is. Okay. So that's what I'm going to do. You have to make sure you stay out of that corner. And you have to keep turning. But remember that other people want to turn too, so don't get greedy about it. Turn for a few minutes and then let somebody else do it. So I put it over here, and then I put it into this anvil. And then I can put this tool on it.
Other way, like Eli was doing.
And you don't have to.
Stand next to it, you don't have to stand at the end.
Come on, get on there. And you don't have to be in a real hurry, but you want it to be twisted fairly close in nature. What I'm trying to do, the metal has been twisted first. First thing I'm going to do is take the other end of this piece of metal.
That's why the door's over there and there's a rope in between.
Yeah.
Well, that's just so we don't go upstairs.
Yeah.
You can imagine that.
Yes, there's sucks to that. Pretty much every building, honey, won't let you go upstairs. They don't want you to get married.
Look at, know what this is? Tell me what this is.
Oil cans.
So if you say I want a pound of sugar, then they would pour the sugar in, and then that's the measurement.
This is your
Is
kerosene.
that different?
This is how you
Yeah.
That is cool. This is where you.
You guys can check that out.
That's really cool.
Welcome newcomers to the general store. You are free to open up boxes, barrels, check things out. Please do not go behind the counters, don't eat anything, and try to come out as little as possible. You don't want to make a mess, and the mics have been in the food.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Thanks.
And you're also welcome to check out the general store. This was built in Waterville, Wisconsin, just outside of Dousman along Highway 18, or what is today known as Highway 18. This building was used only for a short time as a store because then the train is going to come through Dousman instead of Waterville. Therefore, the people are going to start leaving Waterville to avoid running out of business. And so Mr. Thomas is certainly one of them. He's going to pack up as soon as the train goes through Dousman, and he'll actually go over there. He'll become the first postmaster of Dousman and continue his business in this building. It goes into storage, essentially. It is a garage at one time. It is a pig pen at one time. It is used for many different things, but yeah, it'll be essentially vacant for about 100 years before we bring it over here and restore it. This building is one of the more challenging, expensive endeavors in bringing it here because we actually had to take it apart stone by stone. These stones were all gathered from a quarry. They're all limestone. Mr. Thomas and his brother built it themselves. They were stonemasons, so that's how they knew to work with that. Not everybody, of course, is going to work with stone. They will often work with wood and stuff too. You guys can check out some of the various items in here. The most popular things you'll find in a general store sold are coffee, tea, and chewing tobacco. Coffee here looks a little different than what many are used to. Does this look like coffee that you've seen before? No? Does this look like coffee? They have to roast their beans. Did you know that the beans that you buy in the store nowadays are already roasted for you? Already roasted in a machine? These guys had to roast them on the stovetop, and then they could grind them, and then they could make a cup of coffee. So it's a little bit more challenging to get a cup of coffee back then. This little section over there is going to be the reason that the blacksmith hates me. Because those are all going to be factory-made items. Actually, most of the things in the store are going to be factory-made or processed, and so those nails are going to sell at a much cheaper price than what the blacksmith can sell them for. Sometimes he trash talks me. Beware if you go over there.
Why not? Sam, just a second. What? This is our.
Is it all right for this one? Thank you.
Nice.
Go there.
Cool.
We do have that too.
You guys live on a farm?
Mini farm.
Yeah.
We have,
Mini farm.
We
we
bail
have
hay.
like,
Oh,
well, for,
there you
because
go.
we have two, but it's not on our land, it's on my grandpa's land.
Mhm.
Because we have just 2 horses, 1 pig and 2 dogs.
Yeah, you might need some rope every once in a while.
And lots of ducks and chickens.
There you go.
Oh yeah, I forgot the big chickens. There's so many I can't remember.
That's best.
And if you wanted, you could make your own
Don't let
rope
them
instead
hear
of
you
going to
talk.
the store. Might actually be more expensive to make your own nowadays. Because everything is mechanized and everything's real cheap.
Did it matter the way you know, the order that you wove it in?
I just kind of did that so I could each get these kind of individual pairs. Because what we'll do is, you'll see in a second, is we want the pairs to get tension on them as we spin them. And then I'm going to release that tension and they're going to spin on themselves. It'll make a lot more sense to kind of show you rather than tell you. So, 1 spinner, or how many spinners do you got?
Elsa, you want to spin it? You're going to make some rope.
We'll have the little one
make any
first,
noise.
because there won't be much tension on it. We'll have the larger.
It doesn't make any noise, right?
No, it doesn't make any noise.
Because she doesn't like noise.
It doesn't
There's
make
no
noise,
noise.
honey.
There is no
Just
noise.
like the wash bucket.
Yeah, she can try it. If she doesn't like it, we'll hand it off. Clockwise for me. There you go. Perfect.
Finding, you're making rope. Orange Chinese. Let me do it. Is it too heavy? No.
You might start getting a little tense for her. Why don't you go ahead and jump right in there.
All right, Elsa, now it's Lily's turn. Back up.
And what you'll see is the tension,
Elsa,
or
watch.
basically the twisting, is going to eventually start bringing that bucket up. Okay, so once that bucket starts coming up a little bit, that's my cue to kind of allow, keep spinning, kind of allow the rope to spin on itself.
So that's pretty much how you make a rope. Each individual pair, you put basically twisting tension on those, and then you release that tension to allow it to twist on its own. And the same principle applies to any type of rope, any length of rope, a size this way. It's the same thing. You put twist on those individuals and allow them to twist on each other. We're going to do it the quick and dirty way. Let me try and I'll cut up. I'm going to deviate from history here for a little bit and use electrical tape.
Let's go.
You like that, Sarah?
And there you go. That's how you make a rope.
That's so cool.
Do I get to keep this?
You certainly do. You made it. Plus we got these little guys too.
Got some sheep, as well as some dairy cows. And this here was their dining room, and it's a very nice open big room you can see. Behind you guys are actually their cloakroom. And in this area that I did close off, because it was a little crowded in here earlier, they have their sitting room where their piano is. And then they have an office off of this, also their parlor room, and their oldest son's bedroom, which was down here as well. And then they have the upstairs, which most of the bedrooms were. There's 4 big bedrooms up there, so a pretty nice size as well. In Hart Prairie, so no, it's not too far at all. It's really cool. This room here is their butler's pantry, or their walk-in pantry, and they did have 2 work roles that they would have had been serving from it there and serving their friends and dealing with their children. And one, of course, would be cooking in here, but this big door here would typically always be closed. And you guys can come into the kitchen and look around and see that they have work surfaces, their cooking area, obviously, and their place where they would store all their foods and where they would jars and all that they would store. So
Is that pretty rare that the entry of the house came into the dining area? Or is that pretty common?
Not especially. It was pretty common, I suppose. I mean, not always, but it wasn't unusual.
and the town of Luck, which is sort of northwest.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and it was a very Danish community. And Kristen Pedersen married 2 Danish women. Both died in childbirth. I don't remember if you heard that part, but so he was left with his 3 daughters here. But it was great to have that community. The funny thing is, although he was very proud of his heritage, as was that whole community, in order to become an American citizen, you had to renounce any ties to the king back in Denmark or any, you know, that government at all. So, you know, they were happy to do that. They wanted to be citizens, but then, you know, they're keeping all of their culture going as well as they can. So it's just, you know, an interesting sort of line to walk. But, yeah, we actually know a fair amount about the town, which is kind of nice. They had a female doctor which of course wasn't common. Wow. But I believe both her parents were doctors, or her father was a doctor. I'm not quite sure how that was influenced, but she bobbed her hair too, and this was in the 1890s, because I think she cut it for some reason originally, but then she found it was so much easier because she often had to get up in the middle of the night and she didn't have to do anything to her hair if it was short, so it was very handy. So she was way ahead of her time. But those are onions I just picked from the garden. Yeah. Well, they're nice and dirty right now, so I'm gonna peel them and add them to my soup. We have, you know, the ones out by the road, but everything that we use here that they would have used, you either dispose of it in the woods because it's food and biodegradable or whatever, or, I mean, they don't have like tinsel mill.
They're very indecisive. They're almost
School's in session.
Where's
Anyone else? I don't know. Right here.
Okay, we got girls over here. We've got boys over here.
Boys are on the right.
We're on the
We're on her right.
Well, her right.
Because boys are always right. That's it. She'll never forget.
That would mean that school was beginning, and I see we do have extra desks, so if anyone wants to come in and fill in here, you go right ahead. And, you know, if I can reserve these front rows for troublemakers, I'll do that. County near Raspberry Bay, that's why we're called the Raspberry School. It is 1906 in here. This is a one-room schoolhouse, so that meant grades 1 through 8 were all taught together in this room. So everyone would have to take their turns. You would have to wait quietly if you were not doing your lesson with the teacher. So you would have to be patient in here, just like you had to be patient coming in here and take your turn today. If you are sitting in the desk, you'll see you have a slate and a little stick. That is your slate pencil, and you can write or draw quietly on your slates while we're talking in here. That's great. Students did not bring paper, and bet some people will share theirs with you if you give them a few minutes to experiment with it. The books are different levels of the McGuffey Reader, and you're welcome to open those up and take a look at those also. So here in the Raspberry School, as you look around, you may see some things that look different than you might find in a schoolroom today. So I would like some people to tell me, what are you curious about, or what do you see that looks different in here? And remember our 1906 rules. I love to answer questions, but you have to raise your hand, be called on, and then stand up when you talk with the teacher. Yes, ma'am.
What is the slate pencil made of?
Oh, that is a good question. You may be seated. It is made out of rock. So you are scratching rock on rock, and that's what makes the mark on there. But you know, you just erase it with your fingers. Some children would bring a rag from home, and that would be their slate rag, and they would tuck it into their desk. I don't know if you've looked underneath the top of your desk, but there is a little cubby hole there where you could store things. So that might be really perfect slate rag. So what else do you have questions about in my school? Or you adults are allowed to raise your hands too and ask questions. Oh, thank you for sharing with the boys in the front, sharing your slate and your slate pencil. That is wonderful. Yes, sir.
How many stars are on that flag?
Oh, well, you know, it's 1906, so I'm pretty sure that's not 50. We have less than 50 states, so let's try to figure that out.
Our flag is so artistically draped up here. This was very fashionable in 1906. And we know that there's one star for every state, right? And in 1906, we did not have 50 states, we had less. So let's take some guesses. How many states do you think were in the Union in 1906? Stand up as best you can. I know you're in the middle. Yes, ma'am.
13.
13? No, that was our original amount of states. So it's somewhere between 13 and 50. Let's take another guess. There is no recess until we finish our work, so we better start guessing.
12.
Oh, now wait a minute. If we start guessing and we don't raise our hand, unruly students will find themselves over there. Okay, in the corner. And do you see those two sticks over there? Those are called switches. In 1906, if you get too unruly, the teacher does have permission to whack you with one of those, right? So we won't be doing that, so make sure you raise your hand and get called on. Okay, so we're between 30 and 50. Who has a guess? Yes, sir.
48.
48. We are between 48 and 13. We're narrowing it down. We've got the next guess. Between 48 and 13. Come on, anybody can guess numbers, grown-ups and kids alike. Yes, sir.
27.
Oh, we're between 27 and 48. Yes, ma'am. Sir. Between 27 and 48.
12 again.
Well, no, it's got to be bigger than 27, littler than 48. Stand up. Give me another guess.
35.
No. This gentleman is still going to give me another guess, and then you can be next. So sit down. 34. Not quite. It's between 34 and 48.
49.
Oh, not quite. You got one too high. So between 43 and 48. What do you think?
45?
45. All right. There are 45 stars in my place. So how many states are we missing? Let's do some math. If there's supposed to be 50 and there's only 45, how many states are we missing? What's the difference between 50 and 45? Yes, ma'am. 5. Very good. We are missing 5 states. Now we are going to have to guess which 5 states are not. You gentlemen in the back need to stop talking. So now we're going to guess which states are missing. Which states are not states in 1906? Which 5 are missing? Oh, do you know a name of a state? Stand up and tell me. Do you know? What's the name of a state? What? Oh, 6. You're still guessing numbers. Nice number, 6. Not the one we're looking for. Good job. So what's the state that isn't a state? In
Hawaii?
Hawaii is not a state. Oh, thank you for guessing that, because otherwise I do the hula up here as a hint. So thank you for saving me. Yes, sir.
Alaska.
Alaska and Hawaii are not states. So that's 2 out of the 5. We got 3 more. Oh. Now you ladies are being unruly in the back. Wow, this is the You know, just for that, ladies, give me an answer. Okay, Alaska, New Mexico is not a state. Well, she surprised me. Yes, very good. And what else? One of New Mexico's neighbors. Arizona. Did you raise your hand? You know, it is always the adults that have more trouble than the children in this school, I have to say. It is Arizona, New Mexico, Hawaii, and Alaska. Now we have one more. This is a very tricky one. No, wait just a minute. I'm going to give you a couple of hints. It is Indian Territory, yet in 1906. Oh, you should know this. So what state do you think it is, ma'am? Yes? You raised your hand. What do you think it is? No? Oh, you should know what state this is. What do you think it is?
Alabama.
No. Oh, you should know what state this is. It's Indian Territory. Yes, sir in the back.
Oklahoma.
Yes. Look at, now everyone is afraid to ask a question. Yes, sir.
How long was the average school day?
Well, they would start around 9 o'clock in the morning and get dismissed at 4. Remember, you're doing chores before and after school. The children all live on a farm, and there is no yellow school bus picking you up. You have to walk here, so you don't want to dismiss past 4 o'clock because especially in the winter, it's getting dark. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Did they do much homework?
You know, surprisingly, not a lot here, because when you went home and did chores. So majority of this work was done in the school, so not a lot of homework. Yeah. You were needed on the farm to do your work, so it's been kind of up all night. So are you ready to be dismissed? Well, I think we're going to have to be, because I see some more people who would like to get into the schoolhouse. So I'm going to ask you to erase your slates. You want to leave a clean slate for the next group of students who's coming in. And I am just wondering, who is our youngest student here, do we think, in school? I see some real young girls here. Do we know the ages here? Of our girls, 2 and 3?
2 and 3.
2 and 3, okay, and I see you have one there. Could we get one of our young ones to come up and ring the bell and dismiss our class? Yeah, do you want to come and ring my bell? You just have to hold it and go ring, 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 ring.
Rachel, you want to go ring the bell?
Do you want to come and do it? All right, hold on really tight and swing it back and forth really big.
Oh, excellent.
All right, I made everyone happy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For their families, you're selling it to other people, selling it to the government for soldiers' uniforms and the blankets and everything that the soldiers needed. How you doing? Do you know what you're trying to do? You're trying to get all those fibers going the same way, get all the snarls out, get it nice and smooth and straight, and getting it ready for spinning.
Is the carding the last step before the spinning?
Right, the carding is the last step. We take the raw wool, which there's a basket of over there, lay in, and you know, because of the nature of their wool, it picks up everything. It shrinks, and very gently you have to move it from one kettle to the other. And then we hang it in cheesecloth bags and put it outside. Swing it around like this so a lot of the water goes out. And once it's dry, we pull that from cheesecloth bags this morning. So now it's the party.
And would the sheep farmer turn all of the majority of their wool into this type of product, or would they sell it at various stages?
Oh, probably sell it at various stages. A lot of times they can sell it raw and let whoever needed it.
Depending on how much of DIY people are.
Yeah. Depending on the time of year. Of course, the sheep are shorn in May when it's starting to get warm outside and when their coat is the full length that it should be. They are ready to have that thick wool coat taken off so that they're more comfortable. If they're going to be having any lambs, it's nicer if all that wool is off before they're born. You know, just like we stop wearing winter clothing in May and June, they want to have that off too. And then they have time to grow another full coat all summer and winter for the next year. So, you guys got any questions? Just too busy?
So is it better to go with the grain or against this way?
What you're supposed to actually do is basically sit, first of all, because they're curved.
Are you interested in going back to the Yankee area or the Welcome Center where you first came in? Then you can.
to Old World if Ellen thinks it's something she would like. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Still have to bring in my little figure of treasures that. Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna start getting good help. People are sending all their stuff like that over there. Well, Dad sent a box of his. So one of the layouts is called Evening Walk, where they make them square from this way. Yeah. They chop off the shape, chop off the bark and inside. It's decorative. It's still makes it city. Yeah, and there's ladybug. Hi. You see how the walls are white? Or you wanted white walls? Seriously? Yeah, I think because they're dealing with Eva. Seriously? Probably on the ski because she was so wild. That lady, how she drives, she's probably already halfway to the other place.
What's this?
Yeah, I'll wave it down, dude. I'm not afraid.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. How's he not right here in the mud? I was washing those off. Apparently. No, that's a boy. She has penis. No. Wait, but then what about his nipple? There must be. No. Whoa, piggy. Oh.
Yeah.
That's a lot of letters.
Mm-hmm. So this is the Cruza house, and this house is one of the reasons it's so small is because this is where Barbara and August spent the last couple of years of their life. So they were in their 70s by the time they lived here. So they were getting up in years, 70s, 80s. And they moved out to Wisconsin from New York with their daughter Catherine and her husband Frank, who she met in New York. And the reason they came out is because Frank had seen an advertisement in a Polish newspaper in New York for this wonderful Polish community called Hoff Park in Shawanoa County, Wisconsin, that boasted a Catholic church and a general store and a post office and your own land if you could purchase it. So he purchased the land and moved the whole family out here. It wasn't quite the community that it had been advertised as. There was no Catholic church, no general store or post office. It did eventually get these things though, so it became what it had been advertised as. But he was able to get the land. He did have the land, and everyone lived in a log cabin for the first year, and then they decided to have this house built for the grandparents because their family was expanding. So this is where the grandparents lived. It's still on. What was the mattress? It's a straw mattress. So you can feel it. Can't sit on this one. If you go over to the Norwegian area in the Fossabrecka house, you can sit on that straw bed.
Dad.
It would flatten pretty quickly.
Oh, you made food already?
Yeah, just some chicken soup.
So bad.
Hello.
Hi.
Cool.
Welcome to.
There's water in one of those.
Goes. Flax looks like this when it's been harvested, and you can take a look at that if you'd like. Would be harvested probably around this time of the year, early September, maybe in 10 days ago or something like that. But yeah, they're little tiny brown seeds inside there, and they would have been saved for next year's crop. So that would have been step one in the processing. Step two was you got the plants wet, and that was to cause a little breakdown of the outer layer of the plant and to cause it to separate from some fiber just below the surface. Then you wanted to use what was called a flax break.
And this is just a, yes you did. It's a big lever that just is capable of smashing the hard material away from the plant. So it would be something like this. And you gotta keep grabbing some of the fiber and putting it back together. Children would have done a lot of the work with some adult supervision. Sort of an intermediate step would be to scotch.
Here.
Thanks, why don't we just put it right on top as a good example. When you scotch, you're using a scotching board or scotching sword or knife against the scotching board. And I'm just trying to rub the fiber and have a little bit flake away. There's a pretty good example. And get as much of that hard material out of the fiber as I'm able to. And then last step, using the bed of nails, something called hackling. And I want to wind up with something that looks a little smoother than this. The center part of this collection of fiber still needs some work. Some people say it looks like a girl's blonde hair. Some people say it looks like a horse's mane.
So is this what they made baler twine out of?
Is that what?
Is that what they made baler twine out of?
The twine, yeah, could have been made from the tow, leftover stuff from the hackle. What the finer fibers used for is spinning into actual thread and weaving on a loom, making, you know, shirt, apron, towels, etc. Okay, so when I'm hackling, I want to start at the ends and kind of work my way back toward the center, and I'm going to have some material that's left behind in the hackle, which is called tow. You guys have been working on this. So as soon as it gets cleaned up more and more, then you put a little twist on some of it. Let's see if we can get a little example here maybe.
I found a nice strong piece.
Don't pull the hair out. That's what you want.
Yeah, you just want to put a little twist on it when it gets a little stretched out. Something like this, and that's what the twine would be made of. So you could, you know, use that for baling hay, like you said, maybe tying up straw if you're going to hang it up to dry, like the thatching material that's up on the roof, something along those lines. But this wasn't fine enough to be woven into cloth, but it was still something that they were going to use because they were thrifty immigrants, you know, didn't want to waste stuff.
Nogging.
In between, right?
Right, right. You could use whatever materials you had available. So this was very common, though. If you go to Europe today, you will see a lot of buildings that use this
very
style.
typical look.
Right. And you know, the reason for it was that in most places in Northern Europe were largely deforested quickly. So they're trying to build using the least amount of big timber. And this is one of the solutions they find for that problem throughout Europe.
All the wars keep deforesting.
That's right, wars, fires, and then just population growth. You know, you're using wood for cooking, for heating water. It's a huge consumable, right? You're ready.
Girls, plus Mr. and Mrs. Kepsel.
Come here.
So, not a new family. Three older children would have families of their own, actually. So Mr. and Mrs. Kepsel are grandparents by this time. Mr. Kepsel would be early 60s, Mrs. Kepsel's in her late 50s.
And that's what they need to do, is walk straight.
Oh, yeah, sure. Like the flax field?
Yeah, we planted rye. I stayed here this year. Trims all the feet and then puts the shoes back on.
Every 6 weeks?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a
lot of
you don't
work.
want to go too much longer. You know, especially some of, I mean, Quincy over there's got stress fractures in her hoof, so she really shouldn't go much longer than 6 weeks because her hoof splays out.
Yeah, I see that.
And that's what causes those cracks. And you have to put in. And horseshoe nails actually are key to curve in the right direction. You know, so, yeah, they're not symmetrical. You have to orient them.
And they would push the walls upright and peg it together. And they still, today they still do that. I call it a barn raising.
Yeah, that's what a barn raising is, you guys.
Yes, that's how they built the
raise up the
house.
whole wall. Yeah.
And this one is from the 1800s. All your saws. And this, these are the axes for squaring off the timbers. You start with round trees and you wind up with square timbers. This is the broad axe. The biggest of the axes. And then this is called an adze, and it is for leveling the top of the beam. You notice the floorboards sit on the top, so it has to be perfectly level.
Yeah.
In this, they would stand on top of the beam and chop like this. They'd keep their toe up and level off the wood like that.
They just stay up.
Yeah.
But it's usually around the turn of the century that you start to see them where they drop down.
Thank you very much.
This is the African American church, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Not very big.